Good people. We are back for another week of the NFC Beast show. We are here to discuss the best division of football. If you have a problem with that statement, go argue with your mom or your favorite auntie, not us, because we don't care. So, this is your boy Cool McCain. I am joined by my man Scrub Zero right over here. Scrub, what's up?
What
He's
up,
rapping,
though?
of course, as you can see from the background, New York Giants. Right under him, Big Flo. We've actually got an individual for you guys, Dallas Cowboys, who has knowledge, can respect his team, but actually understands the game of football. And that's not
Yeah.
always true.
Okay.
Big Flo, what's up, man?
That's fair. Hey, what's up? Good to be on the show. Appreciate you guys inviting me. I like the intro. You save the best for last. You put the big star there at the end. Save the best for last. I like that. That's the way you do
Definitely,
it.
definitely not. But
You didn't know that, but you did that. That's good.
I didn't do the intro because
Yeah. Oh, okay. Whoever did it is best for last. Star at the end. I like it.
that's kind of what happened. But if that makes you feel better, man, hey, that makes you show up next week, cool. Sam, what's going on, man?
Another great night to talk some NFC East football. I'm excited. Glad to be with you guys all tonight.
Definitely. So we've got some. Y'all know how we get down there. We're gonna talk to you about everything to do with the NFC Beast, the best division of football. If you don't like it, again, argue with your mom or your auntie. Don't bring it to us. So we'll start off kind of recapping week 3 of the NFL as far as the NFC East goes, because everybody else is just second place.
Hey,
So
I
we'll
like it.
start off. We had the New York Giants with a 21-15 victory in week 3 over the Cleveland Browns. So, Scrub, as our New York Giants guy, talk to me. How do you feel about the win? What do you feel that you guys were able to do to be successful in this matchup?
I was pleasantly surprised. I will not lie.
I think we're all pleasantly surprised, or surprised at least.
Because, especially because of how the game started. Because you fumbled the opening kickoff, first play from scrimmage for the Browns, they get a touchdown. It's like, oh, here we go again. Because Giants get out to these slow starts and it just starts avalanche from there. Didn't happen in week 3. They did have that 3 and out, but they got Cleveland the punt. They punted, Cleveland punted, then they got the ball back. I thought it was going to be another turnover, but a penalty got them out of that situation. And then they actually moved the ball down the field. They had some long drives. Scored 3 touchdowns in the first half. Malik Neighbors had 2 of them. They were able to run the ball. They did some creative things in the run and the pass game. Converted a 4th down in that first drive too. Like it was looking good. Defense was solid as well. It's better run defense. There are guys who they all did a better job. Cordell Flott, who I kind of got on last week, he played a lot better. He was a key reason why defense played well. The high profile pass rushers showed up in Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. They had 8 sacks. Because the Cleveland's offensive line has problems. They also lost Wills and the other tackle, I think, during the game too. The only thing I really had an issue with was another fumble from Singletary. It's 2 weeks. That was 2 games in a row. Can't have that. He needs to hold that ball high and tight. We're gonna have to take the Tiki Barber approach with him and have him carry that ball all over until he stops fumbling. And then they kind of let off the gas and let the Browns get back into it. Now the Browns also shot themselves in the foot. Like once they got the 21-15, because they had 3 opportunities to do something, and I thought that it went for it at the wrong times, and luckily the Giants came away with it. So all in all, it was good. They still gotta fix some things, but they at least saw who they thought they could be. There was a lot closer who they thought they could be as opposed to the team that the public thought they would be. Kind of like how week 1 went and even week 2.
All right, Big Flo. I know you're a Cowboys fan, but like the rest of us, I'm sure you paid attention to the Giants at least. Any thoughts on the Giants Browns game?
Yeah, the Giants, they're in New York, right?
Yeah. Oh, you're funny.
New Jersey, New York. I mean,
They still have a team.
Arlington, Dallas, New Jersey, New York.
To be fair, I thought it was, it's like a unicorn. I didn't even know there was really Giants fans out there anymore. But about the game, so I'm just messing with you, man.
Shots.
Yeah, so I think the Browns are and the Giants are a little better than people make them out to be. Daniel Jones actually had a pretty good season. I'm trying to remember what was the team you played right before? I feel like, was it the last game? Maybe it was the Cleveland game, but I feel like if you had a field goal kicker, you might have won one of those games that you lost. I think it was
the game against Washington.
Game. Yeah, I think if you'd have had a field goal kicker, you might have won that game. So that's the coaching staff or the GM. I don't know who to blame for that, but Daniel Jones, to be fair, he's played fairly well, all things considered. And so, that was a good game for you guys, beating the Cleveland, who, to be fair, last year had a top 3 defense, and they haven't looked that way this year. But you did play him well. Deshaun Watson is still recovering from his 2-year hiatus, and then he got injured last year. So he's not the same Deshaun Watson, of course, from Houston, but I think he's getting back to himself. I don't know. I feel like people are overly criticizing him and saying that he doesn't want to be there or whatever. But to be fair, he hasn't played in almost 2 years. And then last year, he by the time he started getting into the season, he got hurt again. So, but anyway, I think the Giants represented themselves fairly well in that game, and they deserve to win that game. And like I said, Daniel Jones has had a decent season so far, and I think he gets a bad rap. Probably deservedly so from last season, but for the most part, he gets a bad rap. I think he's better than people make him out to be.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, a Cowboys fan who can give you a reasonable observation of a different team in the division.
Right. Hey, I'm a football fan. I'm going to talk a little trash, but I'll give you some good observation.
Yeah, it's few and far in between, but we did find one. We got a unicorn.
Okay.
Sam, what you got?
I gotta say, I was thoroughly impressed by the Giants' defense. This is what I kind of expected from them as soon as I saw that they got Brian Burns. To be quite honest, that defense has a ton of talent when it comes to the pass rush, and for them to finally kind of see it come to fruition this season, I think has got to be really encouraging for Giants fans. And I know the Browns are really banged up, but that's a really talented defensive line and pass rush group in general with Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Azeez Ojulari. I mean, really, those are some top flight guys. And once they get going this season, I have a feeling that this defense is going to be a lot better. And we'll see how things go through the rest of the season. But this was definitely encouraging if I'm a Giants fan. On the flip side, that offense, finally seemed to find some momentum. That was good news for them. Obviously, things have been kind of lean on the offensive side as of late. But this is probably so far the best game of the season for Daniel Jones, and I think that once again, that's got to be encouraging if you're a Giants fan. So, realistically, I love to see these NFC East teams, find success against teams outside the division. So it was good to see a win by the Giants and see them find some momentum this season.
Yeah, I want to say on my Sunday morning show, the NFL pregame report, found on Shady Sports Network or Sports Wave Network, cheap plug, always. But I did bet against the Giants. I did say that they would lose that game. The scrub. I'll eat my crow for that. Congratulations on a good win.
Hey, don't forget, I picked against them too. So
I expected the Cleveland Browns to start around in the form on defense. Expect Deshaun Watson to look a little bit better every week. I don't feel like they did it in week 3. I'm not knocking the Giants because the Giants did what they were supposed to do. If a team is not looking as good as they should, you go out there and you beat them. That's what you do. So shout out to the Giants for helping the division look a little bit better by going outside of the division and winning a game, right? You need that. So shout out to the Giants for carrying their weight in week 3. I don't mind giving the Giants props when they deserve it. Just deserve it. All right. Then we'll go to the next game in sequential order in the division. This is a game that not happy about, but I'm okay with the outcome. Philadelphia Eagles with a 15-12 win over the New Orleans Saints. Sam, as the other person that talks Eagles here on the show, talk to us about how you feel about that game and the outcome.
Well, you're always happy to get a win, right? Especially when it's an ugly win. I mean, you never really know how that game's going to go, but ultimately there are so many questions left for the Eagles to answer this season. It's not even funny. And quite honestly, I think it starts at the top down. I was jokingly saying in our NFL pregame report chat that we need to fire Sirianni, and I don't necessarily think that we need to go quite that far yet, but it is trending that direction. You have to question a lot of his decision making this season, and I think in this game in particular, you saw a lot more of that. I know you guys have talked about it quite a bit on Eagles Elite. He needs to take a step back and be a head coach, not try to be the offensive coordinator, the quarterback coach, the wide receiver coach, and the head coach. It's not working. So, let Kellen Moore do what you hired him to do and call the plays, and let's see what the offense does. If it doesn't pick up, then ship him out and take over play calling. Whatever we're doing right now is not working. We cannot win games with 15 points. The defense did an outstanding job keeping New Orleans to, basically nothing on offense, but we can't rely on them to do that every week. It's not sustainable if we want to continue winning, especially against teams like Dallas that have a lot of offensive firepower. And even the Giants at this point, I mean, they've got some pretty talented players there as well. So, I mean, that's something that kind of concerns me going forward. Obviously the Saints offense has a lot of talent, and we were able to stop Alvin Kamara pretty well. But yeah, like I said, not necessarily very encouraged coming out of this game, even though we did get the win. It just was a nasty game from start to finish.
Scrub, what do you think about that game?
I thought if you liked seeing the defense, it was pretty good, but like Sam said, it was a lot left to be desired. I thought the turnovers were really painful. But I thought, unlike what the Cowboys and the Panthers did, you guys actually held them down defensively. Guys made them work. Now, of course, Saquon had the big play in the fourth quarter that got y'all your first touchdown, and that was key. And then on the last drive, that third down where two guys colliding each other, I still don't know how the hell they did that, but that it turned out for them to be key because you got a big conversion, then you end up scoring a few plays later. I thought so. The Eagles did a good job of finishing the game, but like y'all said, Sirianni need to step out the way. Y'all gotta find a way to get going a little sooner, because this is another thing that's been an issue for y'all in the past few years. Like, get going too late, and that's gonna come back to bite y'all like it did last year. Like it ended up doing. Well, not even so much the Super Bowl year, but it. Just a little too much inconsistency for my liking. Y'all get the win, so that's always make the division look good. Just Jalen Hurts needs to not be his own worst enemy, and then y'all just got to find a way to get off to a faster start.
Flo, what do you think about the Eagles game?
To be fair, I mean, I think Jalen Hurts has been turning the ball quite a bit since last year, and it still seems to be plaguing him this year. I'm not sure, it's not gonna get better because doesn't have Kelsey. I mean, that guy was kind of calling your protections. Now it's on Jalen, so that's maybe that's part of it, that he's having to do a little more at the line than he's had in the past. But at the same time, he was having this problem last year, turning the ball over a little too much. So I'm not sure what the problem is there. It seems like there was a coaching issue, him and the coach. I know there was a big article that came out. I'm pretty sure you guys talked about it, but the fact that it ended with, well, they don't hate each other. I mean, was kind of, telling. So I feel like there's a little bit brokenness inside the locker room still between the coach and the quarterback, and that's where you don't want, contention. You want at least the head coach and the quarterback to get along, even if the head coach isn't calling all the plays. Some coaches call plays and some don't, but I think that there's still something there. It seems like there's just something off about the Eagles. And of course, the New Orleans Saints started out hot, but of course, Derek Carr is always on pumpkin alert. So we knew that he was going to come back to earth. So, I mean, and it just so happened to be that game. And so you guys had a chance. I think if they would have stayed hot, I think you guys would have gotten blown out as well, to be honest. But, Derek Carr is always, like I said, on pumpkin alert. And so there's no way he could keep that up. And so you see about how he played that next game. So he'll be inconsistent because that's how Derek Carr is. He'll have great games, and then he'll have games like he had against the Eagles. And it made the Eagles defense look better than they really are, to be fair. They've gotten a little better, but they're not, that good to hold that team to, 12 points. So, I mean, all the games have been close. So, I mean, they've gotten a little fortunate in the Green Bay game. They got fortunate. Jordan Love got hurt, right? And then,
like with
of course,
really
that's true. That's fair, but it was still a very close game. And Atlanta, you lose by 1 point. And then this was basically to the end. I mean, you get a 65-yard play by the tight end. How often does that happen? And so, a little bit of luck on your side, but at the same time, to win a season, any season, you have to have the ball bounce your way, so to speak, and, certain plays, we have a big play here or, not lose this ball and, get this call and get that missed call and things like that. That has to happen during the season. Any season that is successful, I mean, that's not going to carry you, but, good teams, if that bounces your way, it helps you get a couple of victories here and there, or it helps you to the victory or, that kind of thing. But overall, they played well. They got the W, for the NFC East, and I think we get a bad rap in the NFC East. People try to call it the NFC East, which doesn't make sense to me, but I think we have a solid bottom to top. I think we have a pretty solid division, and I think the Eagles could come back into form. And Jalen Hurts has thrown it fairly well, though. To be fair, I mean, he did have 300 yards in that game. He didn't have any touchdowns, but as far as for the most part, there's just a few plays here and there. I feel like a little bit Lamar Jackson-ish, where when you need him to get that one key play or two plays, he doesn't. He throws the interception or he fumbles it or he misses it. And so maybe that's a little bit of it because Lamar Jackson looks really good. And then sometimes when he really needs it, he'll throw a pick or he'll overthrow or he'll miss a throw. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens throughout the year, but it's a good victory for the Eagles, and they should be happy that they're 2-1.
So I'd like to say a couple of things. So the reason that the Saints didn't look like they normally look is Vic Fangio, a veteran defensive coordinator, made adjustments. The big dirty A word, he made adjustments. Jordan Carter,
adjustments.
Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis heard a lot of Eagles fans and non-Eagles fans talking about how they weren't performing and this and that. And they went out and performed. That's why Derek Carr wasn't making the plays. The secondary that the Eagles have, Quinyon Mitchell, a rookie playing outside, playing like a guy that's been there before. Darius Slay, who did get burnt last week, played very well this week. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson didn't get burnt this week. There's a lot of things that you can point to as to why the defense played really well. It wasn't necessarily anything that New Orleans fell back to earth, but that they played a defense that was prepared for them. They played a veteran coordinator that was able to make adjustments.
There was a little bit of that falling back to earth, though.
So like
there's a little bit of falling back to earth.
Yeah, he got a little pass that he scored on previous week on, but when he caught the ball, he was tackled. And the thing is, Derek Carr was not throwing the ball 30 yards down the field to Rashid Shaheed. He was catching the ball in a little screen play or a little quick pass, and then he was able to run past people. He wasn't able to do that against the Eagles because the defense was prepared for how they were going to play. The defense was locked in, and they played really well. And if that's just a fact. You can look at the stats, you can look at the grades for the different players. Bryce Huff is still a question mark. He hasn't showed up yet, but a lot of other guys are. Brandon Graham has showed up. So there's a lot of guys that showed up. And I would say that in the slot this week, we weren't burnt. In the past, a lot of people were targeting us in the slot because Avonte Maddox wasn't playing well. He looked a lot better this week, and that does help us. Once we get Isaiah Rodgers back, that's going to put Quinyon Mitchell in the slot. Once he goes into the slot, that's going to make it a lot more difficult to get the plays there. On the offensive side of the ball, the first half from Jalen Hurts was trash. Between the play calling and his actual play was horrible. But where people need to look is the last drive. Let me walk you through that last play, and I'll just leave it there. The big play from Dallas Goedert wasn't the play that was called. That was audible into from Jalen Hurts. And the reason why that play got off the kind of play off of what Screw Up said earlier was because Jahan Dotson, a guy that just came over from the Washington Commanders, a first-round pick, he ran a route that caused the two guys to run into each other. They didn't do it on their own. They did it because of the route that he ran, selflessly to allow Dallas Goedert to get open to make that big play. And that's the kind of thing that the Philadelphia Eagles need. And I just want to make one more point. We're talking about how bad the Philadelphia Eagles offense looks without their number one wide receiver and without their number two wide receiver for most of the game and without their number three wide receiver for the second half as well. So if you take the top three wide receivers away from any team, they're not going to look as good. You can name any team in the NFL. You take the top three wide receivers away, they're not going to look as good. So getting the win was big for the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think there's as much discombobulation as the media and other teams want to make. But I do think that once the team is whole, that you're going to see a much better roster. Now, the concern for me for the Philadelphia Eagles is Nick Sirianni. We were sold a bill of goods as fans that he was going to sit back and let Kellen Moore call the offense and Vic Fangio call the defense. Now we're hearing him say, this was my decision and this was my call. You said you were going to step back and allow your coordinators to call the plays. That's what happened in the year that we were successful and went to the Super Bowl. When you stepped up and tried to be the OC coordinator or the guy that called plays, it didn't work well. So why are you doing it again? But we'll get into that more lately as we get into another topic. But I feel as if great win for the Eagles. We got to start taking points. We can't go for it on fourth down every time because analytics says go for it. We got to use common sense and say it's fourth down. The game is 3-0. Let's kick a field goal and tie the game. It's fourth down. We're 3-3 now because we actually had some sense and took the field goal. Let's take the other field goal and get the lead instead of worrying about what an analytics says from some guy who never played football. That's the thing that concerns me.
To be fair, analytics are good. You just have to have a feel for it. You got to know when to use them and when to.
You have to have common sense. Yeah, you can't always say analytics say go for it on 4th and 3, so we're going to go for it.
Right, but you got to have a feel for the game, the flow of the game. So that plays into it as well. But yeah, analytics aren't all bad. I think sometimes it gets a bad rap though. Analytics.
Well, I don't necessarily say it gets a bad rap, but it's how it's used, right?
Okay,
if you have common sense as well as that, then that makes a difference. All right, so
Nick Sirianni doesn't have common sense. Okay, got it.
He ain't got good sense either, but that's a different discussion.
Big flow. 28-25. Cowboys lose to the Ravens, but I want to say this before you go.
Okay.
I respect the fact that the Cowboys came back from a hole. One of the things we've always said on here and other shows is, the Cowboys are front runners, right? They get a lead, they play well. They don't get a lead, they don't come back. So they didn't win the game, but I felt like they did dispel that notion to an extent because they fought hard. They didn't worry about the fact that they were down against what I think coming into the season, most people would agree would be one of the better teams in the AFC, in the Ravens. So I give the Cowboys props. Sometimes you don't win the game, but you have a moral victory by saying we can hang with these guys. We were in this game, even though they got a big lead on us. And I think Dallas showed that on Sunday. And I wanted to give you guys props for that because I talk a lot of trash about Dallas. But at the same time, I'm going to give you props.
Do you?
Oh, yes, I do, sir. I do.
Okay.
But I will give you props as well because that's the other side of it. I'm going to say, you're doing this when you're bad. When you're playing well, you got to get props too. So,
right.
Big Flo, talk to us about the Dallas game on Sunday. We'll talk about the Thursday game as well.
Yeah. To be fair, I picked against the Cowboys in this game just because Lamar has a 20-1 record against the NFC in general. So you don't really see him. So nobody in the NFC gets to really see someone who plays like Lamar Jackson. It's hard to emulate in practice. And so you don't see it. You don't know what that feels like, what that looks like. A lot of times I think that his worst record is within his division because they see him all the time. And so a lot of times the NFC teams have a hard time against Lamar Jackson. So that's why I didn't pick that we would get down by that much, but I did pick that it'd be a close game. And I think I said a 3-point game. So I was pretty close. So, but yeah, I gotta agree with you. I think the fact that we came back in that game was a good sign for the future, I think. I didn't like that Dak threw it 51 times. That's never a good sign. Anytime he throws it more than about 34, 35 times, that's never a good sign for us as far as a W. So when he has to throw it that much, it's not good for us. And to be fair, we do have 2 rookie offensive linemen that are still learning. They're all still learning to work together as a unit. As you know, the offensive line has to be able to mesh and, work as a unit. And that's why partly why I think our running game is struggling. I don't think it's because, because we don't have, who was it, Pollard? I mean, he wasn't that great. I mean, he was okay. I mean, you can see him this year. I think he got 14 yards in the last game, but he wasn't the answer anyway. I like that they got Elliott back, and I like him in short yardage, but, they haven't used him too much. I don't know what they're going to do with him. My only issue with the Cowboys lately has been that I just think Dak needs to run the ball more. Not Lamar Jackson more, but just take off every now and then, especially inside the red zone. That's where I feel Dak has always been his best, inside the red zone. He does a run pass option. And so I just wish he would do that a little more. And I think you're right for the most part, Cool, that, they are a little bit of front runners in that they can't come from behind. But in this game, they almost did. And so that's a promising sign. But I think, once the offensive line starts to mesh a little better, I think our running game will pick up. I think we'll start getting better plays. As, I think as seen by the last game that maybe we'll talk about later, but the game that just happened on Thursday. But I think as the line starts to get better, I think even some of Dak's protection, he was rushed a little bit in this game. And I didn't, coming into this game, Baltimore didn't have this great defense, and they were like 32nd against the pass. I mean, they didn't have like a super great defense. I mean, coming into this game, and I felt like Dak was getting rushed quite a bit. But I kind of liked it, but sometimes I think Dak takes off too late. But if he takes off early enough, I think his best plays, if you see any big plays from Dak, he's always on the move. He's rolling out to his left, rolling out to his right. He's scrambling a little bit. It's just when he spends too much time in that pocket is we get in trouble with Dak. But overall, like I said, the only thing I can take out of it is the fact that we did mount a comeback, that it was actually legitimate. It wasn't just garbage time. The game was in the balance. It wasn't one of those where it's just all garbage time. We actually had a chance if we'd have made a third down stop on defense. And I think that's been our biggest downfall so far, is the defense has kind of let us down, which was supposed to be one of our strengths. And so that's where I'm a little disappointed in the defense, how it's played the whole year. And it's played here and let us get behind 28-6. Same thing happened with the Saints. We got down early. And so I think the defense has let us down most of the year. And especially in this game, that's what happened. And then they actually, the defense started to play well once we had a chance, once it looked like we could, hey, this is real. We could probably just got to make a few stops. We just couldn't make the key stop at the end of the game that we really needed to finish off this comeback.
I respect that. Sam, anything you want to add?
Just a few minor things. The Cowboys have got to find a way to get Kevontae Turpin more involved. You saw in this game that he's a playmaker. He can make big plays. If you're a UFL fan, you probably already knew that. I did for sure. Dallas is finally starting to realize that in terms of his offensive ability. They even kind of removed him from the kick return and punt return game a little bit in this one. So definitely excited to see him finally get some offensive playing time and finally score, for this season. But ultimately, I think that's really my big takeaway from this game is I'm excited to see him finally get some more playing time. And that is one thing I got to give Dallas a lot of credit for. They're not only bringing in these spring football guys, but they're giving him opportunity to play. You see Brandon Aubrey making a big name for himself already as well.
Right. And
For those
one
of you who
point
don't know,
to your point, Sam, just one quick one. Hunter Limke, I thought he was be better last year as a rookie, but this year he's come out and had some good catches, some key catches here and there, and and so I think he'll be kind of that. He's a fullback, but he's a pass catcher as well. He can catch it pretty well, and he can get a few tough yards. So that's been a bright spot as well.
Yeah, no, actually, that's another player that I would definitely highlight as well, especially in this past game. He seemed to come out of nowhere and kind of have a little bit of an impact there. So I hope to see that continue as well. I would love to see every team go back to using a fullback personally, but that's just me.
Yeah, probably won't happen, but.
For those of you who don't know, Sam is a big proponent of spring football. So, he definitely supports the guys who get an opportunity there. Scrub,
I like the star.
Last thoughts on the Cowboys game from Sunday.
Scrub.
I was surprised to see the Cowboys pull a comeback. Well, yes and no, because the Ravens have had a history since 2015 to blow a lot of leads. They've blown more leads than any team in the league in that time. So, it's good that it is good that you were able to get some offense going and make it a game. But there's only so much I could take out of it because the Ravens have been like that, and it hasn't changed. It just showed me. It just kind of confirmed more of what I thought. Y'all, I do think
they are who we thought they were.
Yes. Yeah, Dak, he got going, but obviously once you don't want him get going that late when you're that much down. Not to mention the 50 passes, which I don't think any quarterback in the league should be doing.
Right.
Agreed.
And the run game. Now we'll talk about it for the Thursday game, but y'all need to. I don't know who's going to be the key guy because unlike last year, there's no Pollard, and obviously Pollard isn't. I wouldn't call him a number one back, but but the year before you had him and Zeke, and I thought that was a good 1-2 combo.
Mm-hmm.
I still think you're lacking that. Receivers, I like number one for y'all. What's his name? Tolbert, but can he elevate his game to be another viable option? Because to only have CD you're not going to get to where you ultimately want to get to. Defensively, run defense was an atrocity. I hate to say it, but when you give up 200 yards through 3 quarters, there's not a lot of words I could use beyond that.
Right.
But you didn't quit. That's always a good thing. Y'all made special teams. No, y'all special teams is because y'all got that onside kick. I was like, dang.
Right.
Especially now with the change rules where you got to announce that you're doing an onside kick.
Yeah.
And then having Brandon Aubrey. So there's good and bad take from it, but it wasn't all bad. It wasn't one of those games that's like, oh, ain't nothing to take out of it. Cowboys are this is just here we go again. Just things to take note of and see if it changes throughout the season. Now, if it doesn't, then obviously we can revisit this. But for one game, not the end of the world.
All right, so we're going to move on. We had a game on Thursday that involved the NFC East team, actually 2. And that would be the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. So, Scrub, your team didn't quite get things accomplished, so we're going to stick with you. Talk to us about, quickly what you saw in that game that, you felt like led to the outcome that was there. And then, of course, Big Flo, your team won, so you're next after him. I don't really have much to say about that game. If Sam has any comments, he can throw those in after you. But come on, Scrub, talk to us.
You don't got nothing to say?
No, I got to say.
No, I'm talking about cool. He said he ain't got much to say. He said, I got much to say about that game.
Well, that first drive, the Giants were moving the ball well, and then I forget. The Cowboys started with the ball first. I thought we did a good job of getting them off the field. So it was like, all right, we did a good job there. We get the ball. then that face mask penalty, I'm like, how do you call that when face mask wasn't even on the Giants? That was actually on the Cowboys. So I don't know how the heck they missed that call. That kind of killed that drive off. Scored a field goal, all right. But then it kind of just that kind of set the tone for what the night was going to be. The Zebras were going to be. They threw a lot of flags.
Oh wow!
I kind of thought they
did throw a lot of flags.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like it was like, so this game about y'all right now,
yeah.
As opposed to these players just playing. Now some of it I'm not going to say all of it was bogus flags. It was like,
right?
Can we just play?
Yeah.
Giants just couldn't get into the end zone. It was field goals and punts. They had some opportunities for some key plays that could have got them possibly some touchdowns, but whether it was a bad call or missed throw, whether it be just behind the receiver so he can't go for first down, whatever, or Daniel just missing throws because he's good for that, or the receivers dropping the ball because the Giants are also good for that. Like they were able to move the ball, but they couldn't finish additional touchdowns. That's
right.
The thing. You've got and against a division opponent, it's not gonna go like how it went with Washington, where because the Giants defense was so bad, they were able to survive with you can't live off field goals. You gotta get some touchdowns. You get one or two touchdowns, and then the dynamic of that game changes. I thought defensively they were okay. I thought the first half more so they gave up. The secondary was more of a liability and an asset. Like they were there, but it's good to be there. But if you're not able to make deflections, you can't get any picks. You're just there and then tackle. Like that's all and good, but they're not a good enough defense where they're going to make one of those difference making plays in that regard. So I thought that kind of broke them, particularly the touchdown to CeeDee Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
Banks got beat, and then the safety took a bad angle. I'm like, oh, come on. Can't give up those kind of plays. So it reaffirmed some of the concerns I had. I did see some good. Like I said, they continue moving the ball. The offensive line has gotten better. I won't say the F word. The F word is a dirty word in New York. For those who don't know, the word's fixed. The offense. I won't say the line's fixed yet because they start talking like that and then start all going it. But it's exactly. But it's gotten better. They do got to do a better job of run blocking because the Cowboys, unlike the game with the Ravens, they actually got after the Giants in that regard. So there's things to fix. I thought that they were okay, but once again, it went as I expected. I had the Cowboys winning, and the Giants need to find a way to win these games in division because, like, you already lost 2 division games. You lost to Washington, a team that you've historically had success against, and you could have beaten if you had a healthy kicker, or your defense weren't Swiss cheese against the run. And then the Cowboys, you just came up short in too many areas that couldn't afford to. So that's kind of where I am with it. But shout out to the Cowboys. They got the win. So I'll hand it over to Flo now. Go on, Mr. 2-2.
Well, yeah, I was concerned about this game, to be fair, because like I mentioned earlier, I think that Daniel Jones has been playing better than people are put him out to be. I mean, he did have 1 interception. He didn't have any touchdowns, but he played fairly well in this game. Like you were saying, Scrubby.
The interception came late when they were trying to get...
Yeah, it was late, but I'm just saying,
I won't
for
kill
the
him
most
for that.
part, yeah, you can't kill him for that one, but for the most part, he had a good game. He just couldn't finish the drives like you were saying. And so I was impressed, at least slightly impressed, that we stopped the run a little better. Not that you have Derrick Henry on your team, but at least we were able to, kind of, stop the bleeding there. And so, but we did give up a few big pass plays. I thought you guys were in some 3rd and longs, and we gave up some plays gave y'all first downs. I said we could have killed the drive, and you guys were on 3rd and 11 and 3rd and 9 and 3rd and 14, and y'all kept converting. I was just like going nuts. And so I was like, okay, we're stopping the run, but now we're letting them, get these 3rd and longs. And so I was a little upset about that. But to be fair, I mean, we do have a lot of young players, especially on, especially on the secondary since we lost Bland. So hopefully Bland comes back and we're able to take care of some of that in the end. But, we have a lot of young players, a lot of new players. Overshawn is one of the linebackers, and he missed a lot, especially in the last game. He missed a lot of his assignments. If you look at, they try to blame it on Micah, taking the, because it was kind of those read option where you ride and decide, and Micah was taking the right guy, but then Overshawn was going with him and he should have been taking the other guy. And so that was they were blaming on Micah, but it should have been Overshawn not taking, the quarterback and just take the running back. And so that's where they gashed us a little bit. But in this game, it seemed that we played and shored up some of those defensive efficiencies. And nobody gave us credit in the media at large, of course, because it was the Giants, and everybody says the Giants, aren't very good. But I think they're solid. I think they're better than people are saying. Like I said, they could have won one of their games if they had a field goal kicker. They probably would have been 2-2 as well, or they would have been coming in. They wouldn't have come in, 1-2. They'd have been 2-1, and then right now they'd be 2-2 if they'd had a field goal kicker. To be fair, so I think that they don't give the Giants enough credit for how they played this season. Of course, they do have some deficiencies, not being able to get in the end zone and things like that. But overall, they have a solid defensive line. I think they pressured Dak a little bit here and there, and so Dak was about where I wanted him. And our run game looked a little better. I mean, Dowdle had 46 yards. Elliott had about 20 yards. And so it looked a little better. Of course, CD had a run. I like the way they're getting CD the ball a little more. And then Tolbert had a few catches as well. Brandon Cooks, I thought he would have more catches. He hasn't shown up as much. He's kind of been, put on APB for him because we haven't seen him in a few games. It seems like he doesn't have as many catches as I thought he might have, because I guess he's considered the number 2, but Tolbert has been outplaying him lately. And of course, CeeDee Lamb did have that one long touchdown. And I feel like he somewhat redeemed himself from the fumble that he had, I think, last game, close to the end zone and things like that. And he had a little outburst with Dak. But overall, I feel good about this game, and I feel that we're back on track to a degree. I was saying, in my other show that I don't think, as long as we didn't have 5 wins by the bye week, I would be okay. And so this kind of helps us in that, and because the schedule is just going to get tougher. And so I like the direction that we're going in. We did have quite a few injuries. I think Micah got injured. He had a high ankle sprain. And then D-Law also got injured. I forget what his was. But we may not have them for the next game, so that's not good. And so the injuries mounted up a little bit on defense for us because we're all still missing Bland. And so that's a little bit of a concern going into the next game. And so we'll see what happens. We'll see if the other guys can come and step in and fill those gaps for us. So that's my only concern with this game. I love that we won. I like how we won, that we kind of grinded it out. Like you said, there was a lot of flags, kind of messed up with the flow of the game, but we kind of grinded it out still. And we made a couple of touchdowns when we needed them instead of field goals, and that helped us win this game. And so my concern coming out of this game is just that we've had quite a few people banged up, and I'm concerned going, into the next few weeks into the bye.
Just a couple quick thoughts on this one for me. I personally, if I'm a Giants fan, I'm begging my team to get Tyrone Tracy more involved, and this game was kind of a sign that they really don't know how to use him quite yet, because I think that guy needs to be split out wide and used in the slot a lot more as a wide receiver. Keep in mind in college he was a wide receiver, then moved to running back, so you kind of need to utilize those talents, in my opinion. But that was one of the things that stuck out to me. Devin Singletary just isn't successful enough yet to completely give him the bulk of the carries like they have been. And then on the flip side, I was very encouraged to see Dallas finally kind of give Rico Dowdle the reins there and let him kind of run with it. I think he's a quality back, and I think he's going to eventually be the future of the run game for them once they give him an opportunity. But I did want to get you guys' opinion real quick before I get to that. Great game by Dak Prescott. Probably one of his best so far this season. So just wanted to throw that out there as well. But have you guys seen this narrative that Brandon Aubrey missed that kick on purpose and it was all for Vegas betting odds purposes?
Whoa. I hadn't heard that. I hadn't heard it.
I think it was on Bleacher Report. I'd have to look at and find it again.
Yeah,
but
well, it was, to be fair, it was surprising that he missed that. I mean, because he's anything after beyond 50, he's been pretty much money. So I mean, I could see somebody thinking that. I don't know. I just think he just missed it. I don't know. But
I mean, just like the Eagles kicker, we missed a long field goal, right? And he's been money. Yeah. It happens.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think so.
Funny.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for him to hit a 65+ yarder. That he was going to try that 71 yarder that one game, and then we got the penalty, and he didn't end up. And then we're like, nah, we're not going to do it. You know, I mean, I think it was a 60. It
was going to be
6 yarder, and then it went to 71, and they thought about it still. But yeah, I mean, he and I don't know if you heard. I think in the broadcast they mentioned it, but he doesn't even practice beyond 55. He just knows how far it went, and so he knows because he says so if he practices too long, he feels like he'll try to put too much leg into it, and then it'll mess up his technique or something. But I think that's a fair assessment. But obviously the way he's kicked, so he's our secret weapon, and he did miss one. But I think in the end he's going to help us win a few games, close games. As soon as we get to the 50 and we have to kick it from the 50 or the 45, we might still win. But
I was actually wondering if they were going to go for a field goal late there in the half when there was about, I think, 20 seconds left. And it's third down. I was like, yeah, it's the 35-yard line. Like, that's a little crazy, but why not, man? Like, what's the worst that happens? He misses in the punt anyway. But
I feel like he's going to break what is the record? 65, 66?
66.
I feel like he's going to break the record this year. At some point during the season, he's going to hit a 67-yarder or 68-yarder.
Yeah, they probably would have kicked that.
Hopefully, it's not to win the game. It's not that dramatic, Hopefully, it's just during the course of the game. I don't want it to be like the last second, and that's what he hits.
My heart. But that would be more entertaining.
It would be more entertaining, but not for me. I'd be like,
way more stressful.
For everybody else, but for me, I'd be like, oh my god.
Yeah, I wanted to just a couple of quick things on the game. Shout out to Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson.
Yeah,
both had over 10 catches. No Neighbors got hurt. Got the concussion. Hopefully, he'll be able to be back. The benefit of playing on Thursday is you get basically 10 days for the guy to get back from a concussion. Whereas if you're playing Sunday and then playing the next Sunday, it's hard to get back.
Yeah.
Also, I feel as if both teams suffered from playing Sunday and then turning around and playing Thursday. And my thing is the Thursday games, you have to find a better way, right? We shouldn't have guys coming off of playing on Sunday and then turn around playing 4 days later. That's difficult for anybody to do.
Yeah.
I understand the first 4 weeks is hard because of buys, but you have guys that are playing games on Thursday and Friday the first week of the season, and we're playing another Thursday game week 2. Why can't they play that game? Right? Let's find a way to make this fair for both teams. And I think both teams handled it the best that they could in the situation. But we don't have buys yet. You got guys coming off of Sunday games, Dallas coming off a loss, the Giants coming off a win, but then you got to turn around. You don't get to implement a real different playbook because you only get about 2 days of practice before you got to travel to the new site.
Right.
If you're the away team, if you're the home team, you may be coming from an away game, so the same thing.
Right.
So I think it was a sloppy game, but that's because of the fact that you did that to those two teams, right? And then once we get to bye weeks, you should have a bye before you play your Thursday game.
That's fair.
And the NFL has to fix that because we don't want guys like Micah Parsons and different guys getting hurt. Malik Neighbors getting hurt in these Thursday games because these are guys that make a difference on these teams. And these are guys that are sexy players that the casual fan wants to see. If they're not playing, you're not getting the same looks. So NFL, you have to do a better job of making this game better for the teams that are having to play in.
Right. That's fair. I like that. I like that assessment.
I like that assessment. The quality of football too, because we've seen a lot of these games since it switched to Amazon, and it's kind of been, if you're a casual fan, it's kind of been boring, honestly.
They're terrible. They're terrible. Let's not. Sure.
Yeah, you're right. It's been sorry. There's been some sorry football.
It's terrible.
We've had few and far games between where it's actually been good.
Well, to be fair, they've taken away a lot of the hitting in the the in
No,
spring practice and even in preseason, and they can take away a lot of the preseason games. So the less preseason games, the less you're going to play your starters, and so
Yeah, the first 4 weeks are basically the preseason at this point, and it's
Yep.
disappointing because they count. They matter in wins and losses, and they have to do a better
Right.
job of not allowing that to happen. But they did.
Yeah. To your point, they do have to fix something about the Thursday games.
Oh, go ahead, Alfred.
I was just going to say that,
My bad. Please,
like you said, maybe after the buys start, that's when you start the Thursday games, or I don't know what's the best way to handle that. Maybe the first game is okay because if maybe you have I don't know if you can push back the season, but their first game that was a Thursday was good because they weren't going to play for 10 days. They hadn't played yet, right? So
Right.
the first game's okay on a Thursday, or maybe you have those guys play the early game on Sundays if they're going to play a Thursday game. Possibly that's another way to kind of help alleviate that a little bit. But I think if they maybe wait till the bye weeks to have any Thursday games and have them coincide with people's bye weeks also would be a good idea. But
I agree with that. The only thing is that some of these teams also have the international games, and that's a whole mess in and of itself too.
Right.
So you talk about they want to make sure every team gets a Thursday game, and then you got some of these teams that got to go overseas.
Right.
It just becomes a whole headache.
A whole nother thing. I mean, they want to become international, but I mean, to be fair, I don't know how international you can make the NFL. Unless you have a team overseas. I mean,
there has to be some work on that as well. But that's a whole different whole different.
To be honest, different conversation.
But guys, we're gonna go ahead and move on here. So, question: we're gonna ask this to everyone. What question do you have for your team heading into the remainder of the season? Just one or two questions. You don't have to answer them. Just questions that you have that you've seen so far with your specific team. Flo, you're our new guy, so we're gonna start with you and let you go ahead and get yours out there first. So what are one or two questions that you have for the Dallas Cowboys for the remainder of the season from what you've seen so far?
Well, obviously, questions about, some of our injuries that recently occurred, of course. But I think the question is, can we continue to shore up that run defense and, maybe get more competent in the back end. I think when we get Bland back, that'll help as well. But I think a question is, can we continue to, against stronger run teams, can we continue to shore up that run? Because I'd rather you beat us over the top, to be fair, than to just run all over us. I feel like if you're running all over a team, it's just easier to win a game. You win time of possession, even though people say, it's all a pass league now. If you have a good run game and you're able to establish the run and have a good run game, you control the tempo of the game because you're able to get third and short, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2s. You're able to control the time of possession as well. So I'm just looking for us to be able, on both sides of the ball, get better in the run game because I think Dak always plays better with a decent to good run game. I think that's keeps his attempts down in the 30 range. And so I think both sides of the ball, mainly the line, I guess, the defensive line and the offensive line, those are the two keys to shoring up the run defense and the run game on offense. If those two can kind of shore up and become a unit, especially on the offensive line, because I think that will, to your point, Sam, that will help Dowdle in the end because it's not all on the running backs. That O-line is still trying to come together. And so those are my two main questions, is the two lines, the O-line and the D-line.
Sam, what are your two questions for the Eagles heading to the rest of the season so far?
Well, my first big question is this pace for Saquon Barkley sustainable? Right now he's averaging the most amount of carries per game that he's ever averaged in his entire career. And we all know that he's got a long history of injuries. So, if he can stay healthy, we might be looking at a career year for him. But that's a big if. And that's been my question since we brought him in. And to be completely honest, I should eat some crow. I didn't like the Saquon Barkley signing originally, but he has way outperformed what I was expecting from him in the first 3 weeks. So good on him. Hope it continues. definitely a little concerned about our depth behind him if he were to get injured. I don't really want to see Kenneth Gainwell running out there as a starting running back, so that's a little bit of a concern there.
Right.
I also don't want them to revert back to running Jalen Hurts 10, 15 times a game. So that's also a concern as well. So as far as everything else, my big question, I mean, we've harped on it a bunch recently, but I mean, when are you just going to give Kellen Moore the reins to call the game as he would like to? I'm not necessarily saying that he's the greatest offensive coordinator in the world, but at the end of the day, if you hire a guy, you need to empower him to do his job and live or die by that decision. You cannot micromanage him throughout the season and expect him to be able to be an efficient play caller, because it's not going to work. We've seen this in many different cities, towns, teams, and it's just a losing formula. So I hope they get those two things kind of figured out. Maybe there's some late trade candidates we can bring in for depth behind Barkley, but ultimately those are my two biggest questions.
All right, I'm going to let Scrub go last. I'm going to go ahead and throw my two questions out there. So my first question would be, what are we going to do for a consistent pass rush? We did get some pass rush this past week, but we brought in a guy in the name of Bryce Huff that was supposed to kind of not be Hassan Reddick, but kind of play that same role. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And through the first 3 weeks, he's got about as many sacks as I do or Sam does. So that's a question. My second question is, can Jalen Hurts monitor the turnovers and reduce that number greatly for the remainder of the season? I think if we can do those things, this team has a chance to be special. But turnovers are definitely a dangerous thing in the NFL, because if you are turning the ball over at a consistent rate, if every week there's turnovers, multiple turnovers, then that puts your team in a bad situation. So my two questions are essentially, can we generate more pass rush, and can we keep Jalen Hurts in situations where he's able to use the skills that he has and not turn the ball? That's my questions. Scrub, what do you got?
My first question is, can we get enough production out of these running backs to keep a defense respectable? Because we got the rookie wide receiver. He can affect defense, but Singletary he's been good, but then he's been fumbling, and then sometimes he does a bit too much dancing around for my liking. And then obviously you got I'm not in love with Eric Gray. I like Tyron Tracy, but he's a rookie who, honestly, this is only his second year playing running back. And because the Giants don't really have a power back, like, that's my concern. Can you get enough out of that running game to keep the defense respectable? The other thing is, how soon can these young players, how much more can you get out the young players? I'm not just talking about the rookies. I'm talking about some of the second and third year guys. Mm-hmm. Can you get something out of Jalen Hyatt, because he hasn't really seen the field much? I like what I've seen from Wanda Robinson. Can that continue? Cordell Flott. You got the rookie corner who heard Drew Phillips. Can he get back? Give you something? Can Newbin? Because this is a very young team. One if not the youngest team in the league. So, like, if they could, you need some of these guys to have to step up and really produce, because you don't really have much choice. You got to rely on them. This is the team we got. So that's what I'll be looking at going through the rest of the year.
I can feel that. All right, guys. So, we're finishing off. We got 3 games upcoming. Sequential order as always, how they appear on the schedule. The first one, 1 p.m., Sunday, September 29th. Got the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Keep it simple, guys. Who's going to win this game? Philadelphia Eagles, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll go first myself. I'll say the Eagles. I think that there's a good chance that A.J. Brown may play. That obviously boosts the stats. But I think even if he doesn't, Jahan Dotson, Dallas Goedert, Grant Calcaterra, we'll probably see a little bit of John Rawls, some of those guys. I think they can do enough with the running game, because this is a game that I believe Philadelphia will rely on the run more. And I say the run, I don't say Saquon Barkley. I need to see Gainwell 5-6 snaps. I need to see Shipley a couple of snaps as well.
If these are the guys that you kept,
These are the guys you felt were the best options. I need them to play. I need them to show me that they have what it takes. Sam,
Definitely agree with that.
your
Definitely
Eagles
agree
too,
with
man.
that.
What you got?
I'm gonna go with the Eagles as well, but primarily this is because of my doubts about the Buccaneers. Obviously, they just lost to the Broncos. Got to open up a lot of questions there. Philadelphia, they're coming with some momentum into this game. So if the defense can kind of play like they have over the past couple of weeks, I think we have a good chance in this one. I'd still expect it to be a close game just based on how the offense is going right now. But I'm definitely with you, Cole. I would like to see a little bit more out of the depth at running back. Like I said, keep Barkley healthy for the stretch, and let's keep him here for the playoffs because we're going to need it.
Yeah, and I apologize. I said 3 games. There's only 2 games because 2 of the teams played on Thursday. I'm tripping. Big Flo, what you got in this Eagles game? Who you got winning the Eagles Bucks?
I went back and forth on this one, to be honest. A lot of it was because I know that the Bucks are kind of banged up on defense, and looking at their defense, their bottom half, against the pass, against the rush, and the Eagles are top 5 or 6, right up in there. I think they're number 2 overall on offense, as far as yards. But at the same time, the Eagles are banged up. We don't know if A.J. Brown's going to play. Devontae Smith is out. He's not playing. So I'm just saying that's going to make you rely more on Saquon and possibly Jalen running the ball. And so there's there was this, I don't know if you guys talked about it last year, but there was this thing, is Jalen Hurts hurt? Is he not hurt? There's nothing on the reports. Jalen Hurts last year, something about his knee or something. But it was never on reports, but people kept talking about, man, he doesn't look the same. Is he hurt? And they're just not saying it. There's more potential of him getting hurt as well. So, getting injured, running it more, especially if you're a quarterback. And so there's that potential as well. So I think I'm not projecting anybody getting hurt, but I'm just saying they're going to rely more on those 2 guys and their legs. And I just feel like Tampa, they had a bad game. And usually when a team like that has a bad game, they tend to come back and play better. And so I'm having the Tampa Bay Bucks squeak out a 3-point win on this one. I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles pull it out, to be fair. But I just think without your 2 top pass catchers, that's not good for Jalen Hurts, because I feel like he needs those guys, because sometimes I feel like he throws it up there and he trusts them to go get it, and he doesn't really have that right now. So I don't know if you can just rely on the run or rely on these other guys, your 3rd and 4th guys on the wide receiver to really carry Jalen a little bit, not carry him in a bad way, but, in the pass game, help, propel that pass game. So that's where I feel it's going to hurt you. And I think maybe the Bucks can take advantage and, make it an ugly game and win late with a field goal.
Fair enough. Scrub, what you got?
You can flip a coin. I'm going to take the Eagles.
Okay.
Regardless of if A.J. Brown plays or not, I'd like your chances better if he does play. But obviously.
Obviously. State the obvious, why don't you?
But I think y'all will find a way to do it. I think you'll found some success defensively. Do have a big concern with pass rush still, but I think that'll hold you over. And then offensively, you got Saquon. He's going to get a big play. And I think some of your other guys are going to step up this week, and y'all score more than 15 points, and that should be enough to get a victory this week.
And I feel one more thing that I didn't say, but I feel like the turnovers finally bite you this time. When Jalen's going to make a turnover that bites you, and that's kind of maybe not be the key deciding. Hopefully he doesn't, but I'm just saying he's just been doing that all season, and
that's a fair assumption.
Feel like he's gonna have either a fumble or interception that, because he doesn't have his guys. Another reason he may have more interceptions. He doesn't have those top 2 guys. But I feel like there's going to be a key interception or fumble that may cost you the game in the end.
I'm hoping that because he doesn't have a lot of the guys he's used to, He's just saying
Right.
whoever's open, I'm giving the ball. But that's a fair assumption. He had,
But can you trust those guys?
He had fumbles every game, so I mean,
Right.
he had turnovers, so I can't fault someone for assuming he's going to do what he's been doing.
At least you're going against a guy who does kind of the same thing.
Sometimes he has those turnovers and it doesn't bite you. The defense stops them or whatever the case may be, and it doesn't really bite you. And as far as on the scoreboard, and I think this time
you can't. Yeah, you can't continue to do that. You can't put your defense
he can't.
in that
he
situation
can't.
consistently.
Right.
You can't do that.
Yeah. Luckily, you go against a quarterback who is kind of in the same boat.
Gotta give us some back.
Yeah.
Right. He might give it back to you. Yeah.
All right, guys.
That could be it too.
We got one game left.
Okay.
Washington Commanders and Arizona Cardinals. I'll put it this way. I like Jaden Daniels. I like what Washington's building. And I'm not going to buy into the Cardinals as of now. I think they'll put up points for the rest of the season, but I don't see them have another performance like they had last week, just because I don't feel like this team is built to do that consistently. So I'm going to go with the Commanders, probably in a low-scoring game. Lots of yards, but not a lot of points.
Fair enough. I'm actually going to go with the Commanders as well, and I'm a little disappointed in us that we didn't talk about Jaden Daniels' performance last week, because holy cow was he on fire last week. I gotta say, if you're a Commanders fan, you should be extremely excited about the future of your team, because man, he looks good right now. And on that front, I cannot bet against him anytime soon. Anytime you finish a game 21 of 23, over 250 yards passing, you lead your team in rushing, and you manage to escape the pass rush when they're throwing it at you heavy. I mean, honestly, that's a good game by him, and I don't think Arizona's got the defense to stop him. So I definitely have the Commanders winning this game, and honestly, it's going to be a very interesting race over the next couple weeks between the Eagles and the Commanders if they can keep pace like this.
Okay. So you want to go and we'll let Flo finish this up.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Go ahead.
I'm going to actually take the Cardinals. Something about this game kind of screams like, especially how the Cardinals gave one away last week. They could have won that game, but they couldn't finish their own drives. But I think that Kyler Murray, he has a number one, a real number one now since DeAndre Hopkins. But like, he has a number one. Don't give me no dang on Hollywood Brown. Now he's a number three who's masqueraded as a number one.
He's a 2. Anyway,
he's a number 3, dog.
Okay, that's fair.
But he's not a 1. I mean,
he's not a 1. No. He's not a 1. We know that. But no, I think the offense. I think the offense will have some success against Washington's defense, because outside of the front, linebackers solid, but that secondary still a question mark. And listen, Jaden Daniels amazing, dog. I personally thought he was the best quarterback in the draft. He's showing it. But they need to get more out the running backs. I know they had the game against the Giants, but like you need more than that, because you rely that much on the rookie, you're gonna get him banged up. And I think they're gonna do a little too much of that, and that's gonna end up costing them this game.
Fair enough, Flo. Take us out.
All right. I went back and forth. Yeah, Jaden Daniels had a great game against the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals are 0-3, so are they really any good? We don't know. Their defense definitely is not any good. So we can't say that was a big win. So their biggest win was against the Giants. And so, no one believes in the Giants, but I think they're pretty good. But it was a close game still. And I think they could have lost that game if the Giants, would have had a field goal kicker. So I think the Cardinals have played better competition. They have the Bills on the ropes, who everybody thinks is, AFC, is on their way to the AFC Championship, and they have looked very good. And they also beat the Rams, who I feel are a playoff team. They blew them out, and I know they're banged up, and they almost beat the Detroit Lions, who a lot of people think will be in the NFC Championship. So I just think that the Cardinals have played better against better competition. And even though I like Jaden Daniels, that was a big game, a big emotional game. And so he's a rookie. I feel like he's going to have up and down games, and this may be more of a down game for him because he is a rookie. I'm not saying he's going to look horrible, but he's not going to look like he did, I think, against the Bengals. I could be wrong. Maybe he's just continues to go look better and better. I don't know. But as a rookie, you tend to have up and down games. And so I feel this may be more of a down game for him. And I feel the Cardinals pull this out based on the competition that they played and how well they played against them.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. So,
Okay.
hey, man, great episode, guys. Appreciate you guys being here, right? I think we got a lot of good quality information on the NFC East. So people that may not be familiar, that may be watching, can understand how the teams work. Really good breakdown. And that's what we want, right? We don't want guys just come up here and say, my team's great because blah, blah, blah. Really break it down, be able to talk the entirety of the division. And I think we were able to accomplish that tonight, right?
Right.
Shout out Big Flo for joining us, man. We really needed that other piece to kind of bring it in. Cops coach is not able to be here every week, but when he's able to be here, I feel like we can have the whole division actually represented. Love to get a second person for every team, but hey, we struggle to get one, so we just happy for that. And
we got another one. We converted him in the chat, right? He's a Cowboy fan now.
Oh no, that's the Cops coach. He's not gonna convert the Cowboys.
I was just saying that. That's what we said in the chat. He's a Cowboy fan.
He wasn't here, so now he's a Cowboys fan.
He's a
That
Cowboy
was
fan.
Sam's tomfoolery. That was Sam's tomfoolery.
Oh,
But
okay.
hey guys, I appreciate you guys here. Hopefully we'll have you guys all back next week. Of course, everyone is watching understands we're pre-recorded. There will be times where one or more of us may be able to watch the show live and kind of communicate with you guys in the chat. But hey, even if not, man, I feel like we're giving you some good information. Those of you who are new to the division, novices, those type of people, we got you. Shout out to BS3. Shout out to Shady Sports Network. Shout out to Eagles Elite. Shout out to Big Flo, his channel. All these places where you can find this wonderful program, or where you will be able to find this wonderful program. And only things I can say, hey, make sure you tell 4 of your friends, at least people you think are your friends, and 4 people who may or may not like you. Just because they don't like you does not mean they will not like us. And as always, every week, every time, it's never where you start. It's always where you finish. I'm going to let Flo go ahead and throw in that Bottom Line Sports there. Make sure you check him out, as well as all the channels here that are represented. And we'll get you guys next week. And we're out.